Yeah, well, first and foremost, I just want to say, our thoughts and prayers are still with Carly McCord and her family. She was so professional and so great to work with over the course of the last couple of years, and will definitely be missed throughout this conference. And just wanted to pass along our condolences to her family out in the public. So, in regards to this year coming up, I mean, it's hard for me to sit here and say that I'm excited about a football season. Really, I haven't even seen my kids, our players, our student athletes, since the 1st of March. I mean, we still have not been allowed to get back onto campus. So it's just been a really bizarre year, to say the least. And so, more so than me being excited for the season, which I am. We have a bunch of great things going on within our program. We had our best team GPA at a 3.4 over the course of the spring. Super excited about that. Proud of our kids for continuing to excel through tough times and on and off the playing surface. So excited about those things, but more so than football, I'm excited to get our kids back together under one roof, to be able to have a little bit of normalcy in our life, to be able to interact with them, to continue to lead this program without Zoom. I'm zoomed out right now. I'm tired of it. I'm ready to have face to face and interaction with these kids. So more so than anything, I'm ready to get them back, get them working out, and pushing towards a great season. With that being said, we've added a ton of transfers this year to go along with a young squad that we had last year. I think we played 25 true freshmen last year, which is more than I've ever played since I've been coaching. So all those kids are continuing to grow up, continuing to mature. And then we added, 5 or 6 transfers on each side of the ball. So looking forward to getting back onto campus and working towards having a great year this year.
Well, we appreciate you joining us for our Zoom virtual media day. I know you said you're zoomed out, but we appreciate you joining us today. Also, we finally have our 2 student athletes. We have senior running back Kevin Brown, as well as junior linebacker Gerald Bowie. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Kevin, I'll start off with you. I know last year was your first season suiting up for the Cardinals, and you definitely made an impact. How have you been mentally and physically preparing for this upcoming season?
Physically, I've been running and working out with my best friend from high school. Mentally, I've been talking to some of the teammates, just saying that we will, just having in my mind to stay ready and get ready, that we will have a season. So it kind of pushes me further and hopefully see my teammates.
Gerald, for you, you were a part of your defense that had a record-setting 33 turnovers last season, and you yourself had 2. What makes your guys' defense so good and able to make those forced turnovers?
Yeah. So I believe the efficiency of the defense is solely based on the knowledge that myself and my teammates have of the defense, and that is from the coaches pushing us to understand the roles that we have and the jobs that we have to do, and also in practice repping movements through the ball and having turnover circuits and just practicing the movements of us being able to force turnovers, so that when we're during play, they just come as first nature. So.
We talked a little bit about it just now with Kevin, but a question for both of you from Evan Klosky. What has it been like continuing to strengthen, condition, train during this time, and do you feel confident entering this season?
Oh, me? Oh, me?
Go ahead. Yeah, you can go first, Gerald.
Oh, okay. So I mean, at home, it's not like having teammates and coaches there in the weight room, but I mean, times come and we have to adjust. And we just have to continue to do what we have to do. Coach Morris and Coach Youth, our head strength coach, tells us that we have to hold ourselves accountable to fit the standard. And so, in order to create the standard, we just have to keep going. So, I am confident in entering this season with the training that I'm doing here and that my teammates are doing at home, because we are funded and run by accountability. So that is the standard, and we follow the standard.
And then for you, Kevin?
Yeah, just like what Gerald said, it's an accountability thing. Like, you're just not there on the field by yourself. You got your whole squad, your whole team with you. So everybody is counting on you to do your part, and that's what I feel like that you got to do.
Given the current situation, how have you guys been able to, support each other and, keep each other motivated through this time, given you guys haven't been together in person?
The way that we keep in communication is we have not only Zoom calls with coaches and players, but we also have a system of workouts. Where we have a system where it's a small competition between some coach appointed leaders, where we have our own collection of student athletes or teammates that we're held accountable for. So throughout those teams, we're able to continue to keep the chemistry there with motivating our teammates, with just saying and being able to interact with them every day throughout in those group chats, and that's what keeps the chemistry and all that going.
Same for you, Kevin. Is that the same for the offense?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Coach Morris, for you, you talked about having a lot of transfers be on this season's team. How important will it be once you guys finally are, united together on campus? How important will it be to try to get that team meshing and gelling together for this upcoming season?
Yeah, that will be key. Obviously, you need a ton of reps in this game to be able to execute at a high level on Saturdays, especially against the competition that we face week in, week out in the Southland Conference. So, that's one thing as a coach you're a little bit nervous about, is we didn't have, a full spring ball, and we didn't have summer to bring these transfers in and really teach them our systems and get them into shape and kind of learn under what needs to be done in our schemes as far as offense, defense, special teams goes. Everything is going to be happening a lot faster when they get here. We're going to have to rely on, a bunch of walkthroughs and such just to get these kids ready, not only physically but mentally, being able to perform at a high level what we're asking them to do and how they fit into the scheme. So, yeah, our work will be cut out for us. I mean, obviously we don't know exactly what the landscape's going to look like as far as the season going, when we're going to play it, if we're going to push back, if it's going to be spring, if it's going to be status quo, how it's set. There's still a lot of questions that need to be answered, throughout the Southland Conference on what it's going to look like this fall. But yes, it's definitely going to be us cramming a lot of information into a short amount of time to get these new guys ready. And we have a bunch of returners who are really confident in putting out there and putting a great product on the field. And so a bunch of our leaders will ask to step up and help teach these guys, because we do have a good nucleus come back that understands what we're trying to do as a football team.
Kind of along those lines, a question from Angelo Mitchell. With the young players getting so much experience in playing last year, how will they be an asset for this year's team?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing like game reps, and I think every coach in America would agree with that. And so I think that they'll be able to learn from their mistakes that they made last year, and there's definitely their share of mistakes. I mean, we lost 3 or 4 games down the stretch of the season, all of them by 7 points or less. And so just for those guys to be in those moments, be in those battles, understand, what this conference looks like, what we need to do to get better, to not lose those games. And it's something that's invaluable. I mean, you can't put a price tag on in-game experience. So, yeah, I mean, I think that we have a bunch of returners that were freshmen. I mean, our last 4 games, we started 4 true freshmen wide receivers. And so that game experience will come in handy this year. We have a quarterback coming back that started for us for 2 years, that's played a lot of football for us. Coming off of an injury last year, I thought he had a little bit of a setback early, and maybe he was a little bit timid, but we saw kind of throughout the season progress back to where he was. So he's had a great offseason. This is the first offseason he's gone through since, I guess, his junior year of high school. He tore one ACL as a senior in high school, then the other ACL in the conference championship game his freshman year. And so really excited to see how he bounces back and leads this team going into year 3.
Another question for you, Coach. This one from Chase Shannon. With all the unknown, how do you and your coaching staff keep your players motivated and focused, from afar?
Yeah, it's been a really fluid situation. I mean, I think communication is the key. And so, as much as I know that they get sick and tired of doing their weekly Zoom calls, um, we've tried to be creative with it. And, sometimes on Zoom calls, we might do something that has nothing to do with football. Whether we pair people together and they have to get with a teammate and tell within the Zoom call 5 things about somebody that we would never know. So just trying to build relationships with one another, which is extremely hard to do when you're not having that in-person contact. But there's definitely ways around it. And then, same thing when we got together as a group and we're able to have a bunch of hard conversations during the Black Lives Matter movement. I was really proud of our team, and I think Mr. Bowie, who's on the call with us, was a guy that kind of stood up and led a bunch of the conversations. And it was something that I'd scheduled for being 30 minutes to an hour, ended up being a couple-hour conversation where I think as a group collectively, we're trying to figure out and find out better ways to move ahead of society and learn. And I think this is a time that it allowed us to kind of take a step back and as a team come together and have these hard conversations, and then hopefully put some things into movement to where as we get on campus, we'll continue to have those conversations and move to being a better program at being all inclusive and equality for all. And that's something that we've been committed to through the process of this quarantine. And it's something that for me, I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot from our players. I'm blessed to be around the very intelligent kids that we have on our team. And I'm one that says that, you can always better yourself by learning and reading. So that's one thing we've done as a program is try to move ourselves and better ourselves through that situation.
Along those lines, you talked about quarterback John Copeland, but also these 2 gentlemen who we have on the call. How have you seen them really step up and be those upperclassmen leaders that we need on this team?
Yeah, I'll start with Kevin. I mean, he's a kid that came in and honestly, when we look back and kind of graded the tape and went through our cut-ups after the season, he's a guy that averaged almost 6 yards of carry last year. And as a coach and as a play caller, I sit back and I should have given the ball to Kevin more. When you look at those numbers, a guy that came in, learned the offense from a junior college, works extremely hard in the weight room, never had any problems in the classroom, makes great grades. He's never on a list. Get great emails from teachers on campus about how respectful, how polite he is. So he's someone that really represents our program in every way we want. I wish I had 5 more Kevins to replace him in the backfield when he leaves. So he's a guy that smile that you see right there is very contagious. He loves football, super competitive, and does everything right off the field. Bowie, I think when he first got here, is a guy that first year I didn't know where his career was going to move, but he's someone that I would say is maybe he was in our first recruiting class, and he's progressed and developed the most both on and off the field of any player we signed in that first recruiting class that we had. A guy that's a true leader in every aspect of our defense, and he's a kid that is not only very smart on the football field, but he's very smart off the football field, and he uses his voice to be positive in many different ways. And someone that comes from a great family. His sister plays basketball within this conference. So excited to see what he does in these next 2 years being our starting middle linebacker.
A question for you student athletes from Greg Luca. First, we'll start with you, Gerald. What's the biggest challenges for preparing for the season given the shorter timetable you'll have with just being in person with your teammates?
I mean, off the obvious, it's just like the in-person social interaction that we have between the team. Just that chemistry and, you know, going through the hard times in the summer and in the spring where you had the opportunity to push and lead the younger kids or the older kids sometimes, just your teammates being there through the hard times that you have to go through in order to become a team and be ready and not only become a team but become a family in order for the season to come on. So I believe that's the toughest part about not being there with the teammates.
Evan, what would you say is the biggest challenge from your perspective?
Same. It goes on along the line with what Gerald said. Like the short amount of time that we have together, building together, being in the mud, in the dirt with your teammates, building the connection to go further into the season. That's a possible that we can miss out on, and then just the connection again.
Coach, your season is set to start on September 3rd against Northwestern State. How will that, having a conference game first, maybe help you guys throughout the course of the season and know what you need to do to be able to play against these, Southland schools?
Yeah, I don't know how it's going to help us. I mean, as it stands today, we're only going to have about 4 weeks to get ready. So, hopefully at some point, they'll push it back a little bit to where, we can kind of catch up and have at least 6 weeks to get into our facility and actually train and start doing football-specific things and do something similar to kind of what the UIL did in Texas this past day or two. But we'll see. Our kids will be ready for anything. I'm confident in what our coaches have been able to teach over Zoom over the course of the spring and the summer. We've spent a lot of time over these calls being able to go over schemes on video and really teach some of the techniques. Now, everybody that's a coach really knows that doesn't replace getting out there on the field and being able to go through repetition after repetition of that. So hopefully we'll have enough time to get in there and get everybody in shape and get everybody sharp enough with our playbook. I think as a coach, we're looking at ways to maybe be a little bit more simple going into this thing early on, being able to, we feel like we have some of the best athletes in this conference, and we're really going to be able to compete from an athletic ability standpoint early on. And so I think, we'll gear back the playbooks a little bit, take some of the learning off of it just because we don't have the usual amount of time allotted that we're used to as a program.
We've talked about some of, the fact that you guys have lost some players from last year, whether that be receivers, offensive line, but you do return quarterback John Copeland. How will he be the anchor for the offense, and what do you need to see from him this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think that anytime you play in an air raid offense and you're allowing them to make checks at the line of scrimmage and kind of run the offense out there, and almost they're a coach at times, and we give them the freedom to check plays at any time. They have to be really good. They have to be better than everybody else. And week in, week out, they have to perform at a high level if we want to win football games and score touchdowns. So, yeah, I mean, John's done a great job. He's shown us that he can do it. He can win big games at this level. And but the one thing that's best for him is he has a guy behind him right now in Kevin Yeager that had an incredible spring in the 7 practices that we had. So he has somebody right behind him that's breeding competition. And I think that's really healthy competition. Those two are great friends. But Kevin has definitely earned the right to get a look this fall camp. So we have 2 guys that we really trust right now that know the offense like the back of their hand. And so competition will be key, and I think that'll continue to press John to continue to know that, hey, he better continue to get better, or there's somebody right behind him that's capable of replacing him.
Kevin, for you, giving this being your senior season, what are some personal goals that you have for yourself? But then additionally, what type of legacy do you want to leave behind as you put on the Cardinal uniform for the last time?
A few goals that I have is to catch the ball better in the open field, rush for more yards, get more touchdowns. Just the simple, be a better football player on the field. And then, what was the second part of the question?
Just the type of legacy that you want to, leave behind as you suit up for your senior season.
I want to be the best running back that comes out of UIW. I think anybody could contest to that. That's what they want to leave behind. That's it.
Very, very true. Coach, for you, knowing that you have, potentially 4 to 6 weeks, how would your approach in given the allotted amount of time for practices in preparation for the upcoming season, how would that maybe change what you do in terms of preparing?
Yeah, well, I definitely think you have to be smart about it. I mean, bringing them in and really we haven't been able to train them since the start of March with our own strength coach. And so just not knowing where the different kids are as part of what they've been doing at home and how good a shape they're coming in, I think you have to start slow. And if you want to jump in and go fast, I think you always have the risk of creating a lot of injuries early on. So I think you start off with mentally being the main focus that you're focused on, a lot of mental stuff that you're throwing at them, where physically you start off a little slower. And then as you rev things up, I think those things got to kind of start evening out as the kids get into shape and as you feel more confident about putting more on them during the course of a practice. But yeah, so I think you start off with less on the practice field and maybe more walkthroughs, bunch of mental stuff that's not as strenuous on their bodies. And then as you continue to build them up to getting into the playing shape that we need them at, that you start taking some of that mental walkthrough stuff off of them and start revving up the practice to be a little bit harder.
And then last question for you, Coach, just given the personnel you have on the team this year, whether that be returning veterans or new transfers, what are you most excited about this group?
Yeah, I mean, I think this group's at their best when their backs are against the wall. And I saw that during the course of what we went through late last year. And then their mentality coming back in the spring is they're ready to put their head down and work. And some of our leaders stepped up and said, hey, Coach, we're not talking about it anymore. We're going to go back to how we were a year ago before we had won a championship and gotten some of the postseason accolades and all the preseason hype that we had last year. I think we kind of fell into a trap where we thought we were a little bit better than what we were, and we weren't willing to go out and put the hard work and effort in that we needed to get back to staying on top. So, yeah, I mean, we know where we're at right now. There's not another group of 100 kids that I'd rather go to war with. And so I truly love each and every one of them from the bottom of my heart. I can't wait to see them. I don't know if I'm supposed to be able to hug them. I'll probably put on and hug every single one of them when I see them, though, because it's been so long. But yeah, they're a gritty group that really is anxious to get back together and to compete at the highest level at this conference. And so I'm anxiously awaiting to see this mentality and effort that they're willing to bring out when we're able to get back onto campus.
Maybe hug them with a mask, but hey, if they want to hug and you want to hug, have a hug. That's what I say. But thank you guys. We appreciate you for joining us today. If for some reason there was any questions that weren't answered, media questions that weren't answered today, feel free to reach out to the UIW communications staff. But Coach Morris, Gerald, Kevin, thank you so much for joining us, and we wish you the best of luck this season.